Hey, it's Sam, and I'm talking today about the December 2022 forecast, the 5 important shifts ahead. We have Mercury and Venus moving into Sagittarius on December 6th. December 7th, we have the full moon in Taurus. We have December 16th, the sun moves into Sagittarius. Then we have a new moon in Sagittarius on December 22nd. Then Mercury turns retrograde, stationary retrograde around December 28th, heading into the new year. So I'm going to talk about those things in this video and also give a quick overview of the 2023 Vedic Astrology forecast that you can get, the 10 biggest shifts for you, but also a deep dive into Saturn in Aquarius for your sign and all others. This is a huge shift that's happening in the world right now with Saturn moving into Aquarius, and I'm going to talk about that for your sign on this free web class, and you can get that at 2023vedicastrology.com. So let's get into December 2022. The first real important shift happens around December 6th. Mercury and Venus will have moved into Sagittarius. Now, Mercury actually moves in a little earlier, and Venus really around the 5th starts to go in. But by the 6th, both of those planets are going to be in Sagittarius. So this is a shift from Mercury and Venus in Scorpio that we had mostly in November. And so, again, this is a movement from that intense, maybe even kind of like suspicious, emotionally triggered nature of Mercury and Venus in Scorpio. I talked about that in the November forecast, but it's moving from that place where we're, maybe expecting that there's going to be emotional turmoil and emotional struggle into something that's more uplifting, something more inspiring, where we're looking for an answer rather than just hanging out in the suspicious kind of triggered state emotionally and like wondering when's it going to stop. Well, when it stops, it leads to this quest for an answer. This is how Sagittarius comes after Scorpio. Scorpio is where we're penetrating insight and looking into these deeper mysteries where we feel vulnerable. And then in Sagittarius, we find an answer. It's like, okay, this is what's happening. All right. So you can expect a big shift early December to a more kind of hopeful, metaphysical, inspired course. So for your spiritual practices and whatnot, that'll also be quite good. It's really a time to follow your teachings and again, be more inspired and be ready for the, the holiday season and whatnot in a more inspiring way. Right after that, December 7th, we have the full moon in Taurus. Now, this full moon in Taurus is opposite where we had the new moon in Scorpio. So this is a sort of contrasting point. We're coming out of that Scorpio cycle where we have a lot of intense emotions and a lot of vulnerability that we're trying to strengthen. Again, Scorpio comes after Libra, where we have this agreement with others, then we feel vulnerable in that agreement. We feel like somebody might be getting the best of us, or they're taking advantage of us, or what if I lose this thing, right? So a lot of that cycle happening now where we're a little bit, easily emotionally triggered. This full moon in Taurus, December 7th, as it gets closer, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, as the moon is bright and in that full moon stage and state, you could feel more of that grounding, harmonizing, really feeling good about the connections in your life, those stable connections that would be your family, even things like your money and your values, and those things that are solid in your life that you can really relax and enjoy rather than, worrying about the imaginary things that could happen. Think about this in the world as well. We're all very triggered and worried about what's going to happen in the world. But underneath it all, it's still a very solid, beautiful place. We still have our friends. We still have all this stuff going on. We don't need to spin out so much on all of our conspiracies or, scary ideas. So this full moon in Taurus is going to be more of a stabilizing influence because the moon is actually exalted here. December 16th, now the sun moves into Sagittarius. The sun had been in Scorpio, it moves into Sagittarius, and now really brings that light of the sun, that power of the sun into that hopeful Sagittarius place. So again, the sun in Sagittarius is very much aligned with higher wisdom, teachings, gurus, and all those themes I mentioned earlier when I talked about Mercury and Venus going into Scorpio, which has more to do with our communication and our desires and trying to be happy and whatnot, and sort of moving that out of the realm of Scorpio. The sun moving into Sagittarius really takes that sort of focus out of that area of life and moves it into that more hopeful quality. So we can really sort of move on into this next phase once Saturn moves into Sagittarius on December 16th. Shortly after that, we have the new moon in Sagittarius. The sun and moon come together in Sagittarius, and that's going to be really powerful. And that sun and moon come together in Mula Nakshatra. That's about uprooting, pulling out by the roots. I'll obviously do longer video about the full moon and the new moon, but this starting of a new cycle, you know, planting these new seeds of truth and hope and wisdom will be an important theme around that time, right around Christmas, and, you know, the holiday season around the solstice as well. This new moon in Sagittarius is like a very auspicious start to the new cycle. Santa Claus is a very Sagittarius type of figure. And then we finish up the year. The big shift is Mercury turns retrograde December 28th. He starts to slow down, stationary retrograde. By the way, he's right at the edge of Sagittarius and Capricorn. He barely pokes his head in Capricorn, but it's mainly Sagittarius. He kind of stops and he goes back, but this will go into next year, of course. And by the way, in my 2023 forecast, this is one of the big shifts that I talk about are the Mercury retrograde cycles for 2023. It's right around the corner, and you should know what's happening in general in 2023. But we finish the year with this Mercury retrograde cycle. You'll start to feel this introspective quality where you're reflecting on what inspires you. It's going to be mostly in Sagittarius for the most part, and that's going to help you correct, listen more, and make some adjustments around what you believe. So I hope this was helpful for you. And again, go to 2023vedicastrology.com and get the free web class. Again, it's totally free, more than an hour, and you'll learn these 10, actually it's 11 most important shifts for 2023, and also learn about Saturn moving into Aquarius for you based on your sign next year, actually for the next couple years. So thanks a lot.